Hello again, everyone, and welcome to The Crusher. I'm your host, Josh Brewster, with my lovely and talented co-host, as always, Susan Olson. Susan, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Yeah,
Good to see you. Well,
good to see you.
by the way, thanks to everybody. It looks like our previous tribute to stupidity was very popular. We love it. And share. Susan, we were talking last week, obviously, about the fires. Why don't we do a little recap of what's happened in the last week, and then we'll move on to the other bits of insanity that are going on in this world.
Okay.
Where would you like to start with the fires this week? There's a host of things to chew on.
Oh gosh. Um, there's so much, but I guess I would start with I don't I, I was beginning to complain about the false evacuation notices. Because I've been so close to the fires. It's something we grow up with here in California. This has been going on. On the heels of my birth, my cousins, my closest relatives that, were not in the immediate family, lost their home in the Bel Air fire. So wildfires has always been something I've been aware of. And, we've always fought them for as long as I know. Um, and I've been very close to some of these, and I've never gotten an evacuation notice. But then again, we didn't have the phone systems that we do now, even a couple years ago. And so the last time I had smoke in my backyard, the dog yelling at me, going, "We need to do something." Um, I didn't get any warning, but I got three warnings this time, and I never even saw smoke. I mean, if you got up on a hill, you drove out, and you could see it, but it wasn't like having that golden dawn, weird look when there's a fire near you, and never smelled it. So if it weren't for television, I wouldn't have even known that we had a
Yeah.
fire. And I was like, well, geez, why can't they get it right? And I thought, no, 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 no. There's plenty of things to blame the bureaucracy for, like the fact that so many homes burnt down. If the notification process is a little faulty now, that's okay. It will get better. The fact that we have these phones and that we
Yeah.
can be notified
Yeah. No,
is beautiful. And I
it's
love it.
much easier to get the word out even when they screw it up. I'm concerned now. I'm becoming very concerned about the permitting process in California, because anybody who wants to do anything um, on their house, they go through this terrible process, a year, 2 years of
Yeah.
continuances, and I'm just thinking they've got to do something, maybe at the federal level or something. They've got to do something to make sure that people can get their homes rebuilt or be paid for them, because this California crazyville, it just cannot go on. In this case, they have to rebuild these homes.
Well, Trump has proposed that. He knows what a mess it is trying to get anything rebuilt here.
So you're saying Trump had proposed that we streamline the process of permitting, because this
Yeah.
raises a lot of issues, Susan. I mean, there's a couple things. First of all, you have people who have been in the Palisades for 3-4 generations. They're not rich; they just happen to buy at the right time. Then you have other people who are very rich, and then you have all kinds of people here, and then you have old folks who are in the same house they were in 60 years ago. This is a complete mess. And the California crazyville, it's not going to work, Susan. And there's going to be big problems for everybody in this government in California if this becomes crazyville, because I think they should start clearing it and setting up for new homes right now. And I don't know how this is going to go. It's going to be a mess, and there's going to be
Well,
a
and
ton of
I also
scams.
know okay, I don't fall for every conspiracy theory, but I'm getting awful tired of having the conspiracy theories that I have bought into turn out to be true. And I do think that there is a concerted effort to eliminate people having their own homes. They want a nation of renters. Now, that's the people that are leaving office. So I think that this was their plan. I think that's why there's so much red tape, because they want to make it difficult for people to build their own
Yeah.
homes.
Well, there's a couple things. Okay, first of all, it is interesting how often the conspiracy theorists are proven to have been on the right track. We could do a whole show on that, but even if we set that aside, there is something. If you the further and further you go to the left, there is something to what you're saying about the Carol Roth book, "You Will Own Nothing,"
Yeah,
and the 15-minute city,
yeah.
and everybody renting. Now, here's the thing. I don't believe there's any kind of concoction. God knows I don't think there was some kind of concoction to start these fires.
No.
But I do think that there are problems here with how are you going to rebuild? And it brings up a lot of politics that are really screwed up. And I do worry about that, Susan. I have to admit that I do worry about what will be in its place and whether all these people will be able to actually rebuild or whether they will take a check and go elsewhere.
Well, I can't help but I smell it, that there are a lot of people in charge that are hoping to give them pennies on the dollar and be done with them. And like you say, there are so many people. I mean, my gosh, when my parents bought their house in Tarzana, I think it was $15,000, but that was like 1950. And by the time they sold it, yeah, I think they were ripped off. I think they should have gotten $1 million for it. But I mean, it used to be that was your retirement, is that your real estate went up in value so much. Um, I wouldn't qualify for the place I'm in now. I wouldn't qualify for the mortgage. So, it's like people go, why don't you leave California? Well, I can't. I can't get this kind of deal somewhere else. So you're going to have a lot of people that can't afford their own homes. And with the insurance companies, I'm not going to blame them. I know that's an easy mark, but if an insurance company is only going to lose money, because they also know that there's a bureaucracy that's not all that invested in putting out the fires. I'm sorry, but I think we have a lot of evidence of that.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think that the not putting out the fires thing. I really think, Susan, that it's the horror show to me of that is is maybe not an interest. I would differ from you in that an interest in not putting out the fires. I wouldn't go down that road, but I'll tell you the road I go down, and I think it's very real and provable. Is the complete ignorance of people to ignore the decades of mismanagement of the water and hearing stories about we haven't built a dam in 50 years and just ignoring it and the reservoir that we paid $2.5 billion, whatever it is, and none of these have been built, and then the rainwater runs off into the ocean, and all this neglect that you chose to ignore. And I sent you a video from Victor Davis Hanson, and he
Mhm.
boiled something down to when ideology trumps evidence. When your ideology is more important to you than the evidence, you get it. You end up in this situation. So I,
Yes.
th- I think that the scariest thing to me, Susan, honestly, is not necessarily that there's some concoction where we don't want to put them out. I'll just say I think the reality of people really ignoring this and voting for the same people. They don't deserve these fires, but voting for the same people who have ignored and ignored and ignored and put money into bullet trains and $2 billion a year for LA or whatever it is on the so-called fixing the homeless, which never gets fixed, and then Gavin Newsom $50 million to fight anything Trump wants to do. So I guess what I'm saying to you is the real world ignorance of really ignoring all this stuff. And Trump stands up in front of Gavin Newsom. We talked about this, and says, you need to divert the water to LA. You need to do this. You need to save the snowpack, on and on and on. He says, you've got a problem. And it's ignored and ignored and ignored. And honestly, I find that the most frightening. That's what I find frightening.
Well, yeah, and then to hear newscasters and various people saying Trump did not warn about this. I watched him on the news. back when my friend Robert Hayes lost his home.
Yeah.
The Paradise Fires, which were horrendous. Yes, he warned about it. He warned about cleaning up the forest grounds. I don't. Obviously, the people are not a part of the agenda. I think that there can be an agenda, and this is what scares me a lot. Is that I think in many areas there is an agenda. There is a globalist agenda, and they color it with some cause and get people to vote for it when they're really voting for their own demise. I, 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 I think that there's just a basic desire to create chaos and make us very unhappy and turn us all into serfs. It's going to be the haves and the have-nots, and that's it.
Yeah, but on that note, because I do think you have a point about some of these people. Here's the thing: there are many different strains of this so-called progressivism. Okay, so let's look at it in terms of percentages. Now, since we're in a state with a supermajority of Democrats, it's easy, or people who call themselves Democrats, it's easy. But I think you probably are right that, like, we could safely say that 10 or 15%, let's be conservative. The 10 or 15% of these people who call themselves Democrats in California really do want those things. They really do want you to own nothing. They do want the government to run everything. So that's strange. So it comes into bedfellows, not so strange bedfellows like that. That if you go from the far left to the few mainstream Democrats we have in California, they're in bed together. So even if you're not a 15-minute city Democrat or a you will own nothing Democrat, you're in bed with them in a supermajority. You're in bed with them. You're in bed with very hardcore leftists who I wouldn't be surprised if you told me they did want to seize all that land and put up,
Right.
change
And
the
if
zoning.
they do, they can get well-meaning, even the politicians who are progressive and well-meaning, they can get them on board by creating a story about the smelt or whatever it takes.
Yep.
And then they tell the people that this is what it's all about. It's like,
Yep.
I don't really believe that the politicians in England really want little girls to be raped. But that all serves the purpose of creating chaos and destroying the middle class in England.
Well, look, we are ruled by coastal elites, so the gulf between the illegals and the working class and the middle class and the upper middle class, that gulf is widening all the time. And a lot of people say that the population exodus of California would be a lot more severe if you factored in the illegals. That the giant sucking sound of the middle class is even bigger than you think it is. So look, again, I think I said this last week. I'll say it again. After the shock wears off, Susan, what's unfortunate is after the shock wears off, we often will go back to our usual bullshit that we salve our wounds with. And here is the bullshit in California. If you tell Californians that the people that you're responsible for electing have mismanaged this water, okay, and won't clear the brush and all this stuff, you just give it a couple of weeks, and if you say insurance companies, climate change, and Donald Trump, they'll go along with it. They'll just go right along with it.
Yeah. And a horse will always go back to their barn, even if it's on fire.
Look, then I got to ask you this. Do you think, there are a lot of people, like there's a lot of celebrities now who unfortunately lost their homes. They don't deserve to lose their homes. And I do wonder, Susan, if there's going to be enough people pissed off to drag the so-called Democrats back into what the Democrats should be, or start pulling the lever for the other side of the political aisle, God forbid, because it's one of the most blue places and richest places in California is the Palisades.
Well, as you know, I'm always optimistic, and I do think that a whole lot of our elites are going, hey, wait a minute. And as things are blowing up, as so many of the lies are being revealed, they're going, wait, I don't want to be duped anymore. Okay, I hate to say that the conservatives are right, but maybe they can find a spot where they're a party pooper.
Yeah.
You don't have to become a Republican because they got
Yeah.
problems too. But
Yeah.
just hold on to common sense and don't be afraid to look for common sense and
Yeah.
to stand up for it.
Well, I agree. Look, and I again, I saw this thing last night that Bill Maher put out, really talking honestly about Jesus. I'm paying the highest. We're paying the highest taxes in the country. So yeah, actually, I do expect the government to deal with the fires. It's like even if you're a conservative, it's a short list. Public safety, water, fires.
Yeah,
This is what you're here to do. And one he made like one funny line.
shoplifters.
He said one funny line, and this is where I think that like a lot of the celebrities in Palisades will catch on. He said something like, and nobody tried to escape the fires by jumping on the bullet train. And then he just showed a picture of the bullet train that they've spent. It was supposed to be done years ago. It spent billions of dollars, and it's just like a
Train to
1,600 feet.
nowhere.
It's like 1,600 feet of track, and it's just sitting there unfinished. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I
well,
hope and pray.
and I love Bill Maher. I accept the fact that he has Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah.
But I also accept the fact that he's a very smart man and he's very funny, and I really enjoy him.
Yeah, and he's being honest. I don't agree with a lot of what he said, but he is actually intellectually honest, and he's not buying into all the bullshit. Hey, speaking of bullshit, the House. Let's change gears here. The House passed a bill regarding boys playing girls' sports, and I just want to thank God above. We'll get to the inauguration. I want to thank God above that we didn't get 4 more years of this insanity. Somebody's going to try to do something. Somebody named Donald Trump. So tell me about this House bill and what you think.
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, to me, it's like, okay, you can really see it now. You can really see how insane these people are. When AOC, asshole occupying Congress, gets up and starts talking about how the trans children are going to feel so bad about themselves. And it's like, I don't believe you for a second. You may be stupid, but you're not that stupid. But you're hoping that all your constituents are. Um, they came up with this wild reason for why it's so wrong to exclude men from women's sports and how this is somehow perverted. And I'm sorry, but perversion is in the eye of the beholder. You can almost see these people salivating when they talk about how little young girls are going to have to be subjected to genital inspection. What? We can't tell what sex somebody is without genital inspection? And what kind of a perv comes up with that concept? And so one of my people that I love a lot, and I also hate him, is Jimmy Dore. And I love his show because I agree with like 80 to 90% of what he says. And then he talks about Israel. And I'm just like, oh, damn you. I want to meet you so I can shake you. He had his 2 co-hosts on, and I posted this on Facebook because it was so brilliant. It's showing these members of the House talking about how young girls are going to have to be subjected to this horrible humiliation.
Do you know who said this, Susan? Which member of who said there was inspections? We've never had genital inspections before. They just come up with this shit.
Yes, they do.
Who was the dingbat who said this? Who's the
The
idiot
next
who
thing
said?
you know, Joy Reid's going to spread it around, and
Oh,
so
my God.
will what's the Mad Cow, and it's based on absolutely nothing. Some pervert in the House came up with this and said, "Now, doesn't that sound scary? Let's all go with that. Let's all go with that as our argument for why this should not be passed." And the truth is that the American citizens are far smarter, or at least they don't have an agenda, and they're going, no, it's common sense. You don't put guys in girls' sports. Women have fought long and hard. We talk about feminism, which is one of the dumbest movements ever. Um, and you're ruining women's sports. Ruining it. Why? Why do they want to do this? Because they want the mayhem. They are supporting things that are so completely insane that they're completely exposing themselves. And one of the co-hosts, and I can't think of his name, and I wish I could, because he said a really great line. He goes, "This is the Democrats' Spinal Tap moment. It's Spinal Tap and puppet show." And you know
Wait,
what?
it was Puppet Show and Spinal Tap. Remember they saw the sign? They said
Oh,
it's
that's
supposed to be,
right.
yeah,
Yes,
it's supposed to be Spinal Tap and Puppet Show, but you've got Puppet Show and Spinal Tap. Brilliant.
yes.
I love the reference. By the way,
Um,
they're coming out with another Spinal Tap movie because,
no
all the
way.
rock bands now are playing into their 70s, almost 80s, right? So they're coming out with a new one. So it should be
Oh,
good.
shoot.
I worship Spinal Tap.
I do too, and I think that Blow Like the Wind is way better. I think the sequel is way
Break Like
better,
the
and I
Wind?
will never forgive Rob Reiner for cutting Cherie Curry out of the original movie.
Whoa. Cherie was supposed to be in original Spinal Tap?
She was an integral part. You know how the guys all come in with their cold sores, their herpes?
Yeah.
She gave them that.
Cherie gave him. Well,
Yeah.
let me say this. In fairness to Wackadoodle Reiner, he should have left her in, obviously. There's a lot of outtakes. He trimmed that thing down to about
Oh, he did.
85 minutes. And I remember Bruno Kirby's role was much, much bigger.
Yes, and he even
God bless.
sings a song or
Yeah, he
sang a
sings a
song.
song. He's all high in the
Yeah.
hotel room with his underwear. But Cherie Curry was the one who gave him
Yes,
the
this
oh my
this
God.
never appears in the extended versions.
Oh, they
And
didn't
the
show
thing
in the
is,
outtakes? She wasn't in the
no,
outtake? Ah, shit.
she's
Shit.
in one. She got paid for an extended version because she appears in the limo, but they're actually she was in an opening band, and the boys all fell in love with her. I mean, at first they were angry because
Oh
she
my
was
God.
rehearsing on their time, and then they start watching her and they're going, "Oh,
Ah,
wait a minute! Oh, she's really got something." And so they hire her band, which is called The Dose, and to be
the
their
what?
opening
The
band.
the
The
what?
Dose,
The
like the
dose.
dosage, like. And I mean, there's a party scene where she walks in and she's got this big honking cold sore,
Oh,
and she's going,
Jesus.
"Oh, it's nothing, it's nothing.
It's nothing. Yeah. And
It's
then the
just a
next day
cold,
they
nothing."
both got it.
Yeah, and then the
Oh
next
my
thing you know,
God.
everybody's walking. The roadies, everybody's got the thing on their lip.
This album cover is sexist. What's wrong with being sexy? Not sexy, sexist.
Smell the
Jesus.
glove.
Oh my God. You put a
So
bare
maybe
naked
it's a good
woman
time for me to have. I've always
with,
wanted to do a fake band,
oh my God.
Pep. What is it? Steel Panther. Um,
I know the singer from Steel
yeah.
Panther.
Oh, he's awesome.
Ralph was the singer for the Atomic Punks. He
Oh,
did the
really?
David Lee Roth part in the Atomic
Oh,
Punks. And
okay.
David Lee Roth went on Stern one day and he said, this was back when Stern was worth listening to. He many years ago, and he said, that guy's got it. I love what Ralph does. He's perfect. He's got my act down perfectly. And he did. And it's interesting, David Lee Roth used to draw musicians from that tribute band, because you got to think about it. Who the hell else has spent so much of their life nailing the Eddie Van Halen parts,
Yeah.
other than whoever would be playing for Ralph? So yeah, Ralph is now in Steel Panther, and I like that. He was a good guy. I like Ralph. I haven't seen him in a long time.
Yeah. Well, that's a lead guitarist.
No,
I
Ralph
don't
is
know
the
their
singer.
names.
Ralph's the singer.
Okay. He's the guy. He was being interviewed, and they asked him, "What singer from the great beyond? What dead singer would you most like to have a conversation with?" And now I'm going to drop. Like, oh shoot, you're going to have to cut this out. He said, "Who's the singer from Motley Crue?"
Vince.
Oh yeah,
Vince Neil, is that his name? Yeah,
Yeah.
Vince Neil.
Vince Neil was his answer, and that started a fight between Motley Crue and Steel Panther that I think continues.
I love rock band dysfunction. There ain't no dysfunction like rock band dysfunction. I'm a big Ramones fan. They went to their grave and past their grave in dysfunction. They're still dysfunctional. They're all dead, and their heirs, their wives and their brothers, Mickey Lee and Linda Ramone, they're all going at it still. Do you know that? They're still going at it. They're still going at it. And Marky Ramone said recently, he said, there's a lot of money to be made here. You need to make peace. These people have been dead for 20 years. They
Yeah.
need to make peace because there's a lot more money that they could be making and stuff. And I mean, I just love the Ramones so much. But I love
do
rock
too.
band dysfunction. There ain't no dysfunction like
Yeah,
rock band
it's
dysfunction.
great. And I
'Cause
love the fake bands that I mean, Spinal Tap is one of my all-time favorite movies. And like my current favorite band is Rock Sugar, which
what's that?
isn't a fake band, but they're a mashup band. So
Uh-huh.
they take hits and they mash them up together brilliantly.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah. And my
Kind of
good
like
friend
that.
Jeff Harnell is the singer.
Remember Dred Zeppelin?
Yes,
They're
I
the
love
reggae
Led
Zeppelin
Zeppelin.
with the Elvis impersonator singing.
You'll be cheating. You'll be fooling. That's all you want to do. Love it. Love it.
The reggae Zeppelin. I love all that shit. And you know what was cool about Spinal Tap? I saw Spinal Tap live. I don't know. You ever see him
Oh,
live? I
no,
saw him
haven't.
live. I saw him live. Not the first time around, but about 10 years after, maybe 8 years after the film, they did Break Like the Wind and they went on tour. And I saw
Yes,
that. But the
that was
cool
a good
thing
show.
the cool thing about Spinal Tap was that they actually played. They
Yes.
actually all played those instruments and they actually sang. That's what was cool, I thought. And I remember meeting people who thought they were real, like that
Well,
they thought
yeah,
they were a real
yeah.
band.
And in a sense, they kind of were. And then they
Yeah.
do
Well, they
things
were.
like
Yeah.
callbacks to their early hits. And
Yeah.
like
Oh,
one of
it's
my
beautiful.
favorite things from Blow Like the Wind is Rainy Day Sun. It's an
Yep.
acoustic thing that's supposed to be from the
Yeah.
60s. And like a Muppet birthday. It's every cliche and I love it.
Oh, I love it. You remember in the film, okay, I'm a big fan of Waddy Wachtel.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah,
Yeah.
you know who I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Winged Dove or
Did you ever run across him in your
Wing.
travels?
No, but my friend Leslie is a good friend of his, and so I've
Okay.
been invited to a couple of things I wasn't able to go to. But he's a good guy.
I have met Waddy on a number of occasions, and he's a real good guy. By the way, before I start in with this speech, do you know that Leslie Weinstein, who became Leslie West of Mountain, there's an old story. You remember Mountain, Mississippi Queen?
No.
Mississippi Queen.
Oh,
Da-na-na-na.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
okay.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
Waddy was a kid, and he heard Leslie West practicing in Queens or wherever he lived, and he went up to his door and he said, "You need me to teach you how to play guitar." And so he taught. I think he taught Leslie West. But anyway, the thing about Spinal Tap, Waddy's in a band now called The Immediate Family, which I'm going to
Yes, I
drag
saw
you
the
to.
documentary on them.
Yeah, I'm going to drag you to this. Danny Korchmar, Russ Kunkel,
Yes,
and
I
Lee
love Danny
Sklar.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were all part of the Section, which was sort of a lot of soft rock people in the 70s. They played for Linda Ronstadt and famously for James Taylor. And they're all on many thousands upon thousands of records. And they have a band called The Immediate Family, which everybody should go see if they get a chance. And there's a film out about them now. And they added a guy named
That's
Steve
what I've
Post.
seen.
But anyway, so back to Spinal Tap. Danny Korchmar is in the black and white. He plays Danny Pudding. He plays, it's the flashback, the black and white.
Yes.
I think it's Give Me Some Money. It's Give Me Some Money. Give Me Some Money.
Yes.
He plays Danny Pudding, which is like Ronnie Wood, Danny Pudding. He plays Danny Pudding. And then Russ Kunkel in Listen to the Flower People, he kind of looked like Ginger Baker, but the drummer is Russ Kunkel from Waddy's band, The Immediate Family. So they're in there. But I'm horrified to know that Cherie was left on the cutting room floor. She should never be on the cutting room floor. She should be in all films.
She's an essential part of the film, in my opinion.
She should be in every film. They should have her in every film.
I think so. And by the way, I must correct myself. I said one-winged dove. It is white-winged dove.
The white-winged
dove. But I spent my entire youth thinking that Stevie Nicks song was one-winged dove.
Waddy is her musical director.
Yes,
he's been since day one.
Riff,
that's him.
Screwed himself for live performances because, boy, are you going to get carpal tunnel from playing that riff through the entire song.
he had a gig at the Joint on Pico and Robertson for probably 10 years. And he would bring in, like his band was like Bernard Fowler, who sings back up to Mick Jagger and the Stones. Then Brett Tuggle, who the now deceased Brett Tuggle, who was in the keyboardist for Fleetwood Mac on the road. Then he brought in he brought in Rick, the bass player, who's also now passed. He was Neil Young's bass player, and he brought in Phil Jones, who drummed "Running Down a Dream" for Tom Petty and a million other things. And they had a band on Pico and Robertson. They would play, and I swear to God, Ron Wood showed up. Keith Richards showed up, Bob Dylan showed up, Stevie Nicks showed up, and it just goes on and on and on. And it was a great gig. I wish it was still around, but Waddy had a great gig. So I didn't expect to talk about Waddy today, but I love Waddy Wachtel.
Well, we both love music.
And Keith Richards and the Expensive Winos. He was great. Remember them?
That's like the best band name ever.
They were a great band. They only made 2 records. I saw them live at the Aragon in Chicago. The show started, and we didn't know what they were doing. The show started, and lights went black, and you're waiting, and then all of a sudden they come up, and Keith comes up out of a crouch, and they go into Summertime Blues, and you're like, Keith just kind of comes up off the floor, and I think Keith a few years later in his autobiography said, "Oh, we would get in a circle and smoke a joint before the show, and then we'd throw the house lights up and start playing." So that's what they were doing. They were a great band. I love the Expensive Winos. I wish he would bring it back. They made some great records, 88 and 91, 92.
Well, he could. I mean, all those Stones, they got to be drinking from the cauldron at some coven where, okay, they look like leather chairs, but they're very young.
They're still good. Well, you saw them. We both saw them.
Yeah,
they're still good. I mean, it kills me that I'm sorry Charlie is gone. Yeah, but they're still worth seeing. My God, they were good.
Sure are.
They were good.
I was watching Mick and just going, there is absolutely no indication that man is a day over.
He's 81.
I'm being generous saying 30. The guy moves like he's in his 20s.
They always said, about Mick Jagger, not about Keith, but they always said about Mick Jagger that he wanted you to think he was far more fucked up than he actually was.
Oh, yeah.
Not that he didn't do a ton of blow and drink his ass off, but he always wanted that out there that he was a wreck or whatever, but
he really was the temperate one. Yes.
Yeah, he always took care. He always exercised every day. I think his dad was a phys ed teacher, and he always kept himself in tremendous shape. And having 90 children from about 30 different women, that keeps you young too. It keeps you on your toes, Susan.
Well,
it really
and I just think that a lot of rock stars are aging really well because when you do what you love, it keeps you young.
It's true.
Yeah,
that's true. Now, Keith always said, "I'm doing this for me. I'm not doing this for anybody else." And but it is. It's a good point you make. It's a good point. It's like that Talking Heads lyric. If your work isn't what you love, then something isn't right. And I do think it keeps you young. I do.
Yeah, I really do. I think that the evidence, now that our original rock stars are geriatric. Boy, so many of them are aging so well.
Yeah, it's true.
In spite of doing a crap load of drugs.
Yeah. I don't. People marvel how the hell is Keith still alive? But it's interesting. He looks. What's interesting? He looked older at 40.
Yeah.
Than he does at 80. Do you know what I'm saying? When he was 40,
my grandmother was like that. She looked matronly when she was in her 20s, and then she looked like she was in her 20s when she was 80.
Yeah, well, he had to stop doing coke. The doctor told him when he hit his head, it almost killed him. He hit his head. Something fell out of a tree, or I don't know what the hell happened. Something on a plane hit him in the head, and he had to have this really sensitive surgery. And the doctor just sat him down and said, "Look, here's the deal." Like he's talking to Keith Richards, but he's like, "Listen." He knows he's going to drink his balls off, right? But he's like, look, you can't do blow because it's going to thin out your blood, and it's going to thin out your blood, and it's going to kill you. So you can't do any more blow. Now, this is a guy who only did blow 24 hours a day for 55 years or something, right? So, but he told him it's going to kill you. So he just,
you can keep drinking.
He just kept the alcohol and smoking a ton of weed.
A little heroin now and then, but
no, he took the cure. He actually did stay off of that. One
Yeah.
thing he said, he was a famous story about. He said in his book, he said uh, he never smoked cocaine, and Ron Wood, Jesus, Ron Wood almost got
I drew
thrown
the
out of the
line at
Stones.
freebasing.
Yeah, what's that? What?
He drew the line at freebasing.
He did. He drew the line. Yeah. Yeah. Ronnie did not draw the line. In fact, Ronnie's wife used to create freebase kits when they were living in Stone Canyon. And she sold them to a lot of celebrities and stuff. I swear to God, this is true. She wrote about it in her autobiography. She would sell freebase kits, like, here's the machinery so that you can make your own freebase. And they just had some nannies raising their kids. They didn't give a shit. They were just up partying constantly. And Ronnie was so fucked up, they almost, Mick wanted to throw him out of the Stones.
Ugh.
Can you imagine you're so fucked up you're going to get thrown out of the Rolling Stones?
Well, it happened. It did happen to the
Brian
Dead
Jones.
Stone. Yes.
Brian Jones, yeah.
Yeah, he got thrown out for his partying ways. Gosh, I got my first microwave so I could cook Coke.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yep.
Susan.
Statute of limitations is long past. Yeah, I was a party girl, but I never had a problem. And for some
You didn't have a problem.
crazy reason, thank you.
You're cooking cocaine. You don't think that was a problem?
No, because I stopped when
Okay,
it got out of control.
This is like 80 what? 82?
Yeah, because the price of coke, come on, support the Contras. Ronald Reagan took the price of cocaine down to half. You could buy twice the amount of blow.
Oh my God, Susan!
I mean, that's how basing became that's how crack became a drug for poor people. But it used to be you needed a lot of money.
Yeah, you need a lot of money. Yeah. Well, that was, by the way, that's okay. By the way, I'll shoot down a conspiracy theory. The government did not need to create crack. A lot of people think it did. It didn't need to. Once people figured out that you could rock this stuff down and sell little pieces of it for $10, that was what happened. The government didn't need to create it. Once people started figuring out, like Susan and Ron Wood, for example, once they started to figure out how to do this, they could. Here's how you could sell people coke for $10: is just give them a little rock. And the problem is, aside from all the other problems, it is so horrifyingly addictive that even more so than snorting it. I mean, when you smoke it, it's very bad. So, wow, what a revelation, Susan! I tell you.
Yeah, I mean, the one reason why I would like to run for public office is just so that when I get asked questions like, "Well, did you do drugs?" Oh yeah.
I bought my first microwave so I could freebase cocaine.
Yeah. It's such a drag when it comes out like, yeah, I mean, I was a child of the 70s but I'm very lucky. Every drug I ever got into, there was a honeymoon period, and then there was a period where it was like, what are you doing? And my body would really start rejecting it. And it was my love for animals that turned me off. I mean, allowed me to walk away from cooking coke or smoking coke.
Good God.
I had a new kitten, and I was high, and I looked down at the kitten, and I thought, I can't feel love. I can't love my kitten. And I thought, well, that is the devil. The opposite of God, God is love. That's the devil. I am smoking. Before Ethel Meatplow wrote the brilliant song, Smoking the Devil's Johnson, I knew that feeling. And I said, this is absolutely evil.
Well, people can sit there for long periods of time just smoking that shit and ignore everything. How long a period of time did this last for you?
Oh, probably about a year. Me and my husband were doing it, and then we came to an end really a lot because of it. And of course, we were doing a lot of lines too. We were in a band together. But yeah, it was raise your kids to have a spiritual foundation, because when you lose it and you feel the loss of it, it's the most frightening thing in the world. And so that scared me. I got scared straight.
Well.
Yeah,
Ain't
Susan
that
A.
interesting?
Olsen, unable to love a kitten.
Wow.
I mean, that's horrible.
Well, Spinal Tap has taken us
It's
down an
the
interesting.
ADD hour
We
with
had,
Josh
yep.
and Susan.
I love it. I mean, okay, you are very honest. I mean,
Yeah,
okay.
I am.
Well,
That's my thing.
listen, I've said on this show that I don't drink anymore, and there's a good reason for that. So there you go. And yeah,
And I just choose not to.
yeah, oh yeah,
That's the one thing that was really hard to not just overdo it, and be very self indulgent. But
well,
I'm just a bore now.
yeah, oh yeah, no, I'm a total bore at this point. Don't take me anywhere. A friend of mine who also doesn't drink, he says, I have a 2 drink, there's a 2 drink maximum, a 2 drink minimum. He says,
Mhm.
I have a 2 drink maximum.
Mhm.
Once you've had 2 drinks, I leave. You know
Oh,
what I mean? It's
oh
he's
yeah,
sober, right? But he's like, once
wow.
I'm around people who've had more than 2 drinks,
Mm.
I've had enough. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, and
I
I
got to get out
hate
of
that
there.
I often feel that way because it's like when I quit smoking, I vowed that I would not become a born again non-smoker, and I would be compassionate for those who are having nicotine fits, and but I must say it's really hard for me to be patient when people are drunk off their asses.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I hate to say that because I don't I'm not passing judgment, but it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't play with you. I can't join in on this conversation because I'm not there.
yeah. It just I'm worn out from it. It's obnoxious. I can't handle drunk people anymore at all. But I'm not. Yeah, I'm not making speeches about it. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to give you the anti-alcohol speech. I think drinking is fun, and if you're having fun, go drink.
Yeah.
I don't drink because it wasn't fun anymore. It was very not fun. Boy, I'll tell you. Speaking of I don't want to take somebody else's inventory, but speaking of our friend Cherie, go read her book. Boy, go read
Yeah.
her book. Yeah,
Well, I
so
mean, you're
good.
16,
She's in
you're
great shape.
out on the road, you're a rock
Oh,
star. Nobody's
please,
telling you not to do
please.
anything. I
Yeah,
am shocked that she turned out
yeah.
like
Oh,
she did. I
oh,
mean, but it shows that there's a good core with her and her sisters
uh,
and her brother in the first
no,
place.
she's fantastically healthy, and maybe it's just something she had to go through in the early '80s. And it's also interesting. See, Susan, I there's a couple things. I wasn't on a hit television show, um, and I wasn't living in LA around a lot of people who had the kind of drugs you describe,
Yeah.
and I
Oh,
remember when I was young, like I would add up how much it would cost if you wanted to buy cocaine. And it was like whatever rinky dink job I had, I was like, oh, I'd have to work 2 weeks to afford it for one day. So it was never, I was just never around it, and people never offered it. I mean, I'm glad it kind of escaped me because, uh, you know, just never, I really would never really came my way. But it's not easy when you're you or you're Cherie and you're around people who are doing that stuff all the time. I'm sure people are just giving it to you.
not really. And actually, I found myself having the problem of like drug dealers would have a conscience with me. And I'd go to get something, and they'd be like, well, you were here a week ago. So
Mm.
nobody wants to make Cindy Brady OD. So it's sometimes hard to get drugs.
Oh
Like,
man.
I don't know, I kind of feel like your big brother here. Well, you go easy now,
When
okay? I don't want to see you again for another
you,
month.
your dealer's telling you to slow down, that's a
Yeah.
sign. There's a sign. Hey, whoa! I'm selling drugs to the whole city of LA, but you.
Yes. Yes, they always liked me. They feel responsible.
Oh my God! Wow. All right. Well, who knew? I mean, there's a whole inauguration coming up, but I don't know if we're gonna have to tackle that one another time, Susan. We've had an interesting
Hell,
conversation.
I think that this might be the evolution of our shows that we're
Yeah.
going to get into more
I
in the
oh
way
I
of
think
pop culture. Because
yeah yeah
I mean, I feel a lot like I got my way. I don't feel the need to go on social media and warn people about the Democrats. It's like
right yeah
puppet
yeah
show
yeah
and
that America
Democrats.
yeah America. One more time. Say it. Puppet. Good.
Puppet show and Democrats.
Very good. All right, Susan. Well, I'll tell you what. We're going to save, unless you want to do it now, we're going to save the tribute to stupidity. Unless you want to go for the tribute to stupidity.
I already described
You
it.
already described it. All right.
To me, it's just all the people that got up there. They're good actors, I must say, because I don't think any of them are truly that stupid. But if you're going to act so
All right.
stupid as to
All
say
right.
that women are,
I want to put this out there. So here we go with our favorite segment. Tribute to stupidity. Yay!
well, I think I'll be a little more specific. I was going to say all the members of the House who are Democrats fall into this category, and they do. But let's just go with the cutest one. Asshole occupying Congress. That would be AOC, who did her bestest job of acting, along with the rest of these clowns, in claiming to be so upset about a ban on men participating in women's sports, because that would mean that young girls will be subjected to genital inspection. With a straight face, she argued this point. Bravo.
I salute you, Susan Olson. The crowd loves you. Yeah, there's not much more to be said than that. Yeah, I don't need my 12-year-old daughter seeing somebody's Johnson at the locker room. Just don't need it. And most people are sane enough to realize they don't. And asshole occupying Congress, indeed, you deserve the tribute to stupidity. Absolutely. All right, very good, Susan. We will talk again next week, and by then we will have officially have a new president who, thank
It's
God,
Christmas!
thank God, will stop the
So happy.
border. Thank God the border madness is going to come to an end. And thank God the trans kids thing will somebody will take a
Which was
stand.
never real.
This is an adult decision. It's not for children. I just go down the line. Maybe we'll be energy independent again. Maybe we'll be selling natural gas to the world. Maybe we'll pull our head out of our ass, Susan. And the next time we have a show, we can talk about how nice it is to have our American head pulled out of our ass.
Yay. And healthier food. Waiting for RFK to get confirmed.
All right, very good. All right, Susan, thank you so much.
Mwah.